Song of Solomon is our text, and we're going to finish this and then look forward to Isaiah. But Dr. H.A. Ironsides, and Harry Ironsides was a tremendous, he was a Plymouth Brethren Bible teacher. In fact, when I came acquainted with him at the end of his life, he used to stand at Bob Jones University in the pulpit, and he was blind, totally blind. He was led up, and he'd go like this, and they'd get him seated, and he'd feel his way around. He'd take his Bible, and he'd open it up. He's blind. He'd open his Bible anyway, because he just loved the Word so much. And he'd say, I'm going to preach this evening on Ephesians chapter 3. And he'd say, let me read the text for you. And then he'd look down as if he could see, and he'd quote the 3rd chapter. And all of us would follow along. And then he'd say, now look up from your Bibles. And he'd start with verse 1, and he'd preach all the way through verse 1, talking about each word. And then he'd say verse 2, and he'd go all the way through verse 2. And that's what a Bible teacher he was. Dr. Ironside said the key to this book of Song of Solomon is found in chapter 8 in verse 11, if you want to look there. And basically, Solomon had a vineyard at Baal-Hamon, and he leased the vineyard to keepers, and everyone was to bring for its fruit 1,000 silver coins. And so basically he had vast estates, and this one must have been big because 1,000 silver coins is a talent, which is a lot of money. So it must have been very large. But basically, some poor family was working in that vineyard for whoever had rented it out from Solomon. And this poor family was from Ephraim, and from that family there was a girl who would be an ancient Cinderella. She was a shepherdess working in this vineyard, and that's what the whole book is about. And the poverty of her family forced her out of the house where women were supposed to stay and work, and out working with her brothers in the vineyard. And so she gets brown, which was bad back then, and it's popular today. And she meets a young shepherd who comes in checking out the vineyard. So here's this girl that isn't supposed to be in the vineyard, and this shepherd that she doesn't know where he came from. And what happens is they fall in love. And then he leaves her and promises he's going to come back. I mean, what a story. He's absent for a long time, so she despairs. And this is what, if you've read this through, there, all this stuff about, oh, my shepherd, and, where are you, and you came, and now I don't want you, and, that's what all this is about. She's, whatever. But one day, the electrifying word is shouted along the way to the vineyard that no less than King Solomon is coming by his vineyard to check it out. She always knew it was his. She's puzzled because they say that King Solomon wants her to come to see him. She's not interested. She takes no notice. But then she's puzzled as she is brought into his presence. And when standing before him, she recognizes him as the shepherd that she loved in the vineyard. He takes her away to his palace in Jerusalem, and that's where the rest of the book is about. So isn't that interesting to understand what's going on? And so when you're reading the Song of Solomon, we should learn what it's teaching. 4 enduring views. 1, it talks about the glory of wedded love. I mean, it talks about how wonderful it was to be married to Solomon or to anyone. Marriage is ordained of God, and it's beautiful. Secondly, it sets forth the love of Jehovah for Israel. God invented love. God invented marriage. And God says, I invented love in marriage to give you a human method to look at how I love the nation Israel. And so that's a beautiful picture. But number 3, it also is a picture for us of Christ in the church. Because as Solomon, the shepherd, loved this shepherdess that was dark skinned, so Christ loved us who are stained with sin and are dark before him. And he has cleansed us and taken us into his palace of fellowship. And someday, actually, he's preparing a place to take us home with him. Finally, it also depicts the communion of Christ in individual believers. And everything that we share tonight is something that is available for all of us. Sometimes we're much like the fella that had a wood business and he used to cut and chop wood, and with his cross-cut saw, bow saw, and his axe, he could get about 2 cords done a day. And someone said, you could really increase your business if you bought a chainsaw. And he said, okay, I don't really want technology, but he went down, got a chainsaw, picked it up, a nice one, and he came back to the man and plopped it on the desk. about a week later, and he says, you know what? I still can only get about 2 cords and a couple more sticks. That chainsaw doesn't do anything better for me. And the owner said, are you sure? I mean, did you tune it up and everything? The guy said, I don't know. And so the man fiddled with it a little bit and went, and the guy goes, what's that sound? You get it? He was using it like this. And a lot of Christians are using the Christian life as if it was a mechanical thing they had to do themselves, instead of letting the power of the Spirit run through us. And that's what we're going to see here.